The right wing has lost its mind in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's murder. Almost immediately, a chorus of commentators insisted the shooter must be a leftist, a tidy narrative that proved tempting enough to crowdsource despite a stunning lack of confirmed evidence. I'll lay out what has actually been verified, then move into the murkier speculation that followed. But first, the speed with which some prominent conservatives embraced and amplified an unproven story was striking. Ben Shapiro, for example, wasted no time appearing on Bill Maher's show to assert a version of events that, as far as independent verification goes, didn't hold up. Here's the painful truth. When a politically charged attack happens, people rush to fit it into preconceived boxes. There's a persistent, almost formulaic narrative that if a synagogue is attacked, the culprit is a white supremacist or radical Islamist. If a Republican politician is attacked, the culprit is framed as a trans Antifa Marxist. Those shortcuts may be rhetorically satisfying for some, but they aren't evidence-based. Right now, we simply don't know the shooter's ideology. Yet the rumor mill treated uncertainty as a vacuum to be filled with certainty. Early reporting, including pieces in The Guardian and Tablet, suggested the shooter was politically left-leaning. But those reports later faced serious scrutiny. The Guardian updated an article on September 12, 2025. To remove quotes after a source who had been identified as a former high school friend said they could not accurately remember details of their relationship. That kind of retraction matters. It shows how quickly unverified personal testimony can become the scaffolding for a sweeping political claim. When outlets publish claims that have to be walked back, those claims still live on in social feeds and partisan talking points long after the corrections are issued. The internet, as always, compounded the problem. Within hours, we saw a grab bag of assertions circulating as facts that the shooter was a registered Republican, that he had donated to Trump, that his father worked for the sheriff's office, that he'd worn a pro-Trump shirt, or that he was a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Many of those specific claims are false or unverified. The lesson is predictable, but worth repeating. Rumor proliferates faster than confirmation. One of the most misread pieces of evidence was the inscription on a bullet casing. Headlines claimed the shooter had referenced fascism and memes, and commentators interpreted that as proof he was an Antifa leftist. But a closer look shows the inscription included arrows and phrases that are references to current video games, particularly Helldivers, where the arrows indicate button inputs to call in an airstrike, and ironic slogans like "Say hello to democracy" are game lore rather than straightforward political manifestos. There's a pattern here that mirrors many mass shooters over the past decades. Individuals who are socially isolated, obsessed with online subcultures, lacking healthy outlets and mental health support, and with easy access to weapons. They seek notoriety and choose targets that will maximize their visibility. That doesn't make the crime ideologically tidy. It makes it tragic and familiar. Into this fog of uncertainty came claims that the shooter had a transgender partner, a story promoted by former President Donald Trump in an interview and picked up by outlets like Fox News. The alleged partner, described in some reports as cooperative with the FBI, was portrayed as someone whose relationship with the shooter helped identify him. But further digging shows the evidence for a romantic relationship is circumstantial at best. That said, it's also true that conservatives, even prominent ones, have historically been caught in private relationships they kept secret. So what does all this mean? First, that certainty is rare in the immediate aftermath of violent events. Second, that social media and partisan media alike are quick to weaponize unverified details to score political points. Third, and most important from a policy perspective, this episode highlights how political violence, domestic extremism, mental health failures, and easy access to weapons intersect in deadly ways. Whether the shooter is ultimately characterized as an online radical, a disgruntled fringe right adherent, or something else entirely, the underlying pattern is the same. Violence is escalating across different arenas, from domestic abuse to mass shootings to political assassination. And the country will continue to pay the price unless we start taking serious, practical steps to prevent it.